the shadow, the darkness, I stand in the light. See, it's our style, we keep it true. I had a bad Honda, a red hot moon. Take the bus downtown to the graveyard shift. Tears come from the razor, left it tattooed below his eye. His mother.
Rancid was formed in 1991 by San Francisco Bay Area punk scenester Tim Armstrong and Matt Freeman. They are lifelong friends and longtime punk fans, both of whom grew up together in the small working-class town of Albany near Berkeley. They had also played together in a ska band. Legendary punk named Operation Ivy. Armstrong made a stage name as Lint, and Freeman as Matt McCall. After Operation Ivy disbanded in 1989, Armstrong and Freeman spent several weeks in the ska punk band Dens Hall Crashers and Downfall. Freeman then briefly joined a hardcore band called Emdisi. Meanwhile, Armstrong's team was battling alcoholism, and to help keep his friends busy, Freeman finally suggested that they break away from their daily work by forming a new band, and Rensid was born. They later added drummer Brett Reed, who was Armstrong's roommate and close friend of the Gilman Street scene. It was only a few months later that Rensid performed live around the area, and in 1992 they released their 5-song debut IPI on Lookout Records. This IPI caught the attention of Epitaph Records founder and Bad Religion guitarist Brett Gurewitz, and Epitaph signed a highly lucrative contract with Rensid that guaranteed the group a great deal of creative control. The band's debut full-length album with the eponymously title arrived in 1993, pursuing a hardcore and sketch-up tempo punk style with some hints of early British punk. Rancid then looked for a second guitarist, and Billy Joe Armstrong of Green Day even played live with Rancid at one gig. However, they saw Lars Frederiksen, a Bay Area resident who later joined the Uke Subs incarnation and performed with the band Slip. Frederiksen initially declined Rancid's invitation to join, but when Slip disbanded he quickly changed his mind and joined Rensid's first tour. Frederiksen made his recording debut on IPI Radio early 1994, a said de Leons on Fat Wreck Chords. Released later that year, Let's Go was the album that made Rensid's name in underground punk even more prominent. It marked the beginning of their interest in 1977-era London synth punk, in particular The Clash, and it also gave them their first wide exposure when MTV shot the video for the single Salvation. Let's Go quickly went gold, and with the massive mainstream success of Green Day and Offspring that year, major label interest in Rancid quickly escalated into a full-fledged bidding war for the labels. In the end, Rancid decided that no major could give them the level of decision-making power Epitaph gave them, and stayed on the path they were on. Rancid had great success with their next album and Out Come the Wolves, the Clash side being even more prominent, coupled with a greater interest in the revival of the original two-tone ska which had helped to influence Clash. Then Ruby Soho was a huge hit on MTV and radio, and Timebomb and Roots Radicals became hits of their own. This album went platinum and made Rensid one of the most famous punk bands. They played the 1996 Lollapalooza tour and after that took a short break. During that time Matt Freeman played with former singer Exene Chervenka in Antichrist, while Armstrong founded Epitaph's subsidiary Hellcat Records. He and Frederiksen both started doing production work for another band they hoped would be in the spotlight. Rancid returned in 1998 with an even heavier Life Won't Wait. They also collaborated with members of ska bands The Specials and Hepcat, dancehall reggae star Buju Banton, and agnostic front vocalist Roger Miret. While it doesn't surpass the level of an Out Come the Wolves, this album shows that Rancid maintains a large fan base. For the 2000 record, their second self-titled release largely removed the ska punk side, and recorded a deep, hardcore-influenced album that blasted 22 songs in under 40 minutes. Maybe that's why Rancid got such a positive response from the punk community. Rensid's next full-length, Indestructible, followed a year later, although it was technically released through Hellcat. but it was their first album to receive additional support from a major label through Warner Brothers. This deeply personal album reached number 14 on the Billboard charts due to the song Fall Back Down, which did well on radio and MTV. After the release of the record, Rancid went on hiatus, the band members working on various side projects. Armstrong continued to work with Transplants, his band with Rob Aston and Travis Barker, and collaborated with various artists including Pink. Fredriksson then went on to play with his side band Lars Fredriksson and the Bastards, and Freeman briefly joined Social Distortion from 2004 to 2005. In the spring of 2006, the revitalized Rancid regrouped, and they toured around the world starting that summer. To please the fans, several shows had to be postponed and rescheduled after Fredriksson collapsed on stage in Montreal, apparently suffering from a seizure, but soon he returned and the band kept going. Rancid promised a new record for the following year, and Armstrong released his first solo album A Poet's Life, which fell through Epitaph by releasing songs online for free download for several months. With the band back on track, then shockingly in November 2006 when Reed announced he was leaving Rancid after 15 years together, a split seemed the best path and he was soon replaced by Brandon Steinekert. After taking the time to look back on their brilliant history with their compilation B-side and C-side, a collection of music videos and online retrospectives from the band members' days on Operation Ivy, Rancid returned to the studio to record 2009's Let. It would be another 5 years before fans got their hands on a new Rancid album. The band entered the studio in 2011 and did some recordings, but Armstrong eventually left the session in favor of working on another Transplants album and recording a solo under the name Tim Timebomb. One new Rancid song from the session was frankly called Fuck You, which was released in 2012. That same year the online box set Essentials compiled their back catalog on Vinyl 7. In 2013 Transplants released their third album In a War Zone. After that Rancid got back together to tour and work on their eighth album. Produced by Gurewitz, the Back to Basic effort Honor Is All We Know was released in late 2014. Then after its release Armstrong has remained busy with regular radio shows, solo shows, and production work. Dan Fredriksson played in two groups, namely Old Firm Casuals and Oxley's Midnight Runners, and the band played several shows in 2015 and 2016. They also re-entered the studio with Gurewitz to make their ninth album, 19 tracks Troublemaker, which was released in June 2017 and coincided with the group's 25th anniversary. And that's a bit of Rancid's band journey. For those of you who want to add, please comment below.
He's singing